Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Big C back in the building. Want to do a little quick video right now. I was looking at Unsung, man, and one of the things that tripped me out is most of those groups from the 70s and the 60s. A lot of the artists from those days, they had drug and alcohol problems, you know. And you can understand how folks back in those days acquired those problems. You know, a lot of stress, life stress, and all that stuff. Racism, Jim Crow laws, and all that stuff. Man, they was coming out of that. So I guess once they got some money, they was like, man, turn up, and they turned up. You know, but you look at all the effects of drugs on the black community, from the crack epidemic to the epidemics throughout the 40s, 70s, 60s, heroin epidemics, drug wars and loss of life, and being in prison due to the drug activity, you know. So, you see all these effects on the black community, and it's not exclusive to us, though. You know, I just want to let you know that. Right now, drugs in America is weaponized. You know, they put it in the areas where they want to get rid of some folks. Right now, you got the poor whites in the Midwest and throughout the country. They are experiencing an opioid and a methamphetamine crisis. So, you know, we have to, I guess, man, we're just gonna have to learn how to live life without getting high. You know, but that's hard. You know, every once in a while, I smoke weed. I just got through smoking, you know. As a youngster, I had experience with drugs, you know, mescaline. We used to take mescaline pills back in the 70s, early 80s. Took some mescaline pills, little cocaine, you know, nothing too hard, you know, partying. And I seen the effects of what it did to me, and you know, I just want to give you a little insight on drugs in our country, and our community really needs to stop promoting all this drug use, stop using drugs, because we already got a lot of issues within our community, and these drug epidemics and drug use just amplifies the stuff that we are already dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So first of all, I want to talk about the history of heroin. You know, heroin was, you know, in Mesopotamia back in the day. You know, they've discovered poppy, the poppy seed where heroin derives from. The Egyptians, there was found evidence that the Egyptians used it. Alexander the Great certainly brought it from Asia into he brought it around the world with him, you know. So we could only imagine, as prehistoric and as old as this world is, people always had these same issues, and people was getting high. Back in the Middle Ages, they had a little nut called the betel nut, you know, marijuana. It's always been some high stuff going on, you know. So 200 years ago, a German scientist, a chemist, he isolated the morphine out the poppy, and that was the beginning of the modern era of drug addiction. Because the morphine was used for pain. The morphine was, you know, if you ever had morphine, ever been to the doctors, it's cool for the heart. Your heart, it stabilizes the heart. It's good for pain. and you get high as hell. So a lot of surgeries they were doing back in the Civil War, when they amputate arms off, they was using morphine to sedate the people. I mean, shit, they didn't have nothing else. So naturally, during the cowboy times in the Wild West, in the early building of the country after slavery, a lot of these ex-Civil War veterans was addicted to morphine, and morphine was more readily available, so you've seen a lot of addictions go up. In the, let me see, in 1886, John Pemberbrook wrote the original recipe for Coca-Cola, and during that's where cocaine, they were using cocaine as an ingredient in Coca-Cola, as an ingredient, toothpastes, drinks, cigarettes, cough drinks, all kind of stuff. They was using cocaine, and even heroin. They at one time they was prescribing heroin. They was promoting it to kids, you know. So they didn't know too much about the drugs at that time, and they were fun, so they was using the drugs and all the type of shit. You had snake doctors that would go from town to town, and he had this little shit that he done made up. But you got rheumatism, he give you this cough medicine. Most of that shit is opium, you know, so it's the history of drugs goes way back to the 1800s, man. The addiction was severe by the late 1800s. The morphine addictions got so severe that they had to try to make something else, just like what they get on now. What's that stuff they get on? When a heroin addict needs to kick, but he can't, they go get him some stuff. I forgot what it was. I remember the name, but they give him that stuff. They drink that. It's a little less, but it still has the same effect. So when in the 1800s, the Bayer Pharmaceutical, 1890s, 1895, Bayer Pharmaceutical Company in Elderfield, Germany, they developed heroin. They made heroin out of the morphine. I don't know how they did it, but they made heroin. And Bayer, which sells aspirin, the Bayer company is around today, Bayer Pharmaceutical. They essentially invented one of the most devastating drugs in the 20th century, heroin. So, yeah, man. And after that, you would see they had pills. And in New York City, a lot of immigrants was coming to New York. A lot of young, rough whites were crushing down the heroin pills and snorting them. This is like 1900. This is 120 some years ago, man. They was crushing down heroin pills and snorting it. It was cheap. You can get it. It was just over-the-counter medicine, and they was high as hell out there in New York. You know what I'm saying? So back then wasn't no different than right now. You know, I don't believe that the blacks had got into it so much because we were so ostracized in these communities that and we stuck together, and then we was really it was a Christian oriented communities that we had. So a lot of that stuff was looked down upon. They probably do it in the speakeasies, in the big cities, in the cut, you know what I'm saying, behind closed doors. But it's, you know, even the opium dens in those days, the Chinese had a lot of opium dens, and that was a big problem back in the day. You know, opium is a downer, so you know a lot of people was laying around high with them pipes out their mouth, man. So it's always Chinese, as you see, the whites, the immigrants, and the Chinese. These were Civil War veterans. These were the first people addicted to drugs in the United States. So during the after World War II, blacks in the ghetto start being targeted with the drugs, especially heroin. You know, cocaine is always an upper. Weed, they have many names for weed. A lot of the jazz musicians, everybody was smoking the weed. A lot of the jazz musicians was doing all the drugs, heroin, cocaine. You had people like Satchmo, Louis Armstrong, you know, all that bebop and all that big band era. They was getting high, you know, but it was more of a party thing, kickback thing. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a lifestyle like niggas is making it now. But yeah, man. And one of the first people to get that opium over here was the British East Indian Company. Now, if you ever heard of them, they did a lot of work. We need to sue they butt for reparations, because I think that's one of the companies that brought the slaves over, was involved in the Boston Tea Party, all type of stuff. The British East Indian Trade Company, they went all around the world back in those days in those ships, and you know, the waters was dangerous. This is 100, 200 years ago. So Britain was the first big drug dealer, you know? In 1905, America banned the opioid use. They passed an act called the Harrison Act, because it had gotten so out of hand. At first it was cool, you know what I'm saying? But people, the drugs kicked in and showed them who it really was, and tore up the communities. So America got involved. They acted on that and passed the Harrison Act in 1905. In 1915 they passed the Harrison Act. In 1905 they banned opioid use. Period. In 1915 they passed the Harrison Act. During the 20s and the 30s, when the gangster life was, you had the mafia and the bank robbers, notorious bank robbers during the Great Depression. You can only imagine how many people were running away to drugs and alcohol. Prohibition was in effect back in the day. So that's how a lot of those gangsters got rich, by selling alcohol and heroin, you know? So you can imagine how the gangsters was getting high, all that stuff they was doing. Pretty Boy Floyd, Machine Gun Kelly, you had to be loaded, you know what I'm saying? So they was getting high, man. And then J. Edgar Hoover, he didn't really too much care about the drugs, because as long as it was affecting the blacks, after the 30s and the 40s, most of the drug abuse was in black communities, because they were pushed in the ghettos and those poor areas, not much to do, not many jobs, lack of education. So a lot of brothers and sisters went to drugs, especially heroin back in those days. In 1973, President Nixon created the DEA and the war on drugs. The head of the DEA back that time was George W. Bush Sr. And the boy J. Edgar Hoover had just did the COINTELPRO. That was very successful. So they had neutralized people who they identified as the Black Messiah, you know. They had already killed Huey, Fred Hampton, you know. They so many black brothers that got killed in those in the days of the first revolution, man. The first resurrection. That's what a lot of the OGs call it. But it's the times of the 60s and the 70s. They killed a lot of brothers, man. You know, and they seen, after Martin Luther King had got killed, Malcolm X had got assassinated, they seen, especially Martin Luther King, though. They seen an anger in these brothers, and they seen something in them that scared the brothers, man. So they had to. That's when they really doubled down and put that cocaine into the game. And a lot of guys was pimping back then, so they were promoting it, as something cool. And it was a rich man's drug at that time, so they was freebasing. Look at Richard Pryor; he burnt himself up freebasing. They was basing with ether basing with a big pipe ether in it and stuff like that. They was basing cocaine that way. In the 80s, they began cooking it up, And then along with all that stuff, we got pills, all that stuff today, Molly's, one molecule from ecstasy, and methamphetamine, pseudoephedrine, niggas going into the store, buying heck of pills, making meth, and, all of our community is affected by this. So, I was just looking at all these celebrities that died, man. All these groups that was affected by drug addiction. We gotta stop using drugs and be healthy, man. You look at Billie Holiday, Marvin Gaye, Ray Charles, Jimi Hendrix, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince, Amy Winehouse, Elvis Presley, Janis Joplin, John Belushi, River Phoenix, Chris Farley, Mac Miller. Even I got partners that overdosed off heroin, a lot of them. And, look at the rappers of the day. What's the boy, Rico Reckless in Chicago? No, that's not him, not Rico Reckless. I forgot, what's the boy name? But the other boy in Chicago who passed away from an overdose, man. Just all over the country, We're gonna have to stop using them drugs, man, Put that shit down. Go get you some health in your life, man. Get you some healthy stuff in your life. I got a whole cabinet of shit, man. I'm gonna show you this, man. Look at this. That's my medicine cabinet. You see that? This is a snack right here. That's my cashew cluster snack. Put these cranberries on my oatmeal. I got the books, vitamins. This is PM vitamins. I got AM vitamins and PM vitamins. You take them in the morning, you take them at night. You know what I'm saying? AM, PM, baby. Amps. This right here, that's my pre-workout. Then I take a shot. This is a shake right here. Lean shake, I got my little hydration stick. This good, that good stuff, get you hydrated. Amp hydrate. I got all kind of stuff, man. You know about that. I got my turmeric up here, E-shot, and I got my water. So yeah, why do we use drugs, man? Just like the same dopamine and endorphins that you're trying to set off, you go set them off jogging, doing some push-ups, working out, you know what I'm saying? Drink healthy, take care of yourself, y'all. The worst thing that you can do is kill yourself. And that's what drugs will do to you, slowly but surely. So, I know, man, I used to deal with that shit all my life, man. I sold them and I used them, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not gonna sit up here and be a fake dude and lie and act like, because everybody that was in the drug gang wasn't no kingpin, and everybody that in Africa wasn't no king or queen, I was on the streets hustling, didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground as a kid, and I saw the consequences of drugs in my community. And by the grace of God, I'm still here. It's 2019. In 1989, I picked up the newspaper and we had all the faces of the people that got killed that year in the paper. And from that day on, I always thought that I was going to be in that paper, sooner or later, So for me to get out that life and work as a social worker with folks battling addiction and health issues and mental health issues, it's really depressing to see my community just overrun with all kind of issues, whether it's financial, education, disenfranchisement, laziness, drugs, and alcohol, So if I could say anything about that to enlighten y'all on what's going on, man, remember, we wasn't always addicted and on drugs in our community. We were worshiping God and doing other things. First people that was on drugs in America, I'm talking about heavily, the Indians, they was using stuff for spiritual stuff. LSD and PCP, that could create a spiritual episode, So the first people in America that was using these drugs was people in war, in the Civil War. So that was up close and personal. And it was for excruciating surgeries, amputations, taking bullets out the brain, all kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So you are in a similar position, evidently. We have been in war, and we got to find a recipe and put other things in place of these habits of using and getting high, even drinking. Now, mellow stuff like marijuana, weed, ain't nothing wrong with weed, man. Weed is cool, but anything in excess can harm you. If I drink too much water, I could die, So be careful, you guys. Yeah. I'm trying to make this channel pop off, man. If you like my content, like and subscribe. I just come on. It's nothing special. I just come on and talk about the issues that that are close to my heart, that I want to address, and just give you a little insight from somebody who's really been in the fire and has been redeemed and turned my life around and doing everything positive right now for here on out, I don't see myself falling back into that trap. So, once you know better, you do better. And I'm a Muslim, and I believe that you're not truly a believer until you want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. Till you want for your brother and your sister what you want for yourself. And I want everything, and I want you guys to have everything. And also, it's dangerous for us as a people and for my kids and your kids to have to navigate communities with so much ignorance, divisiveness, and losing shit, So I just want to inspire. Get back at me. My name is Big C. You're listening to the host with the most. And hit me up, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Peace and blessings.